Hello. I have to apologize to you right off the bat. I should probably introduce myself. My name is Ann Burrell. I am CEO and co-founder of Twiggs Co. We are a sustainability consulting and implementation firm, and we are here to shift how the world functions, to create an economy, to foster the creation of an economy that actually serves society that lives within it. Right now, they are all in breakout rooms right now, but this is Saturday, April 17th. Of 2001, and we're at an event called Radical Collaboration. It's actually, the title is WTF is Radical Collaboration, because you know what is it actually? And I didn't press the record button before the talk, so that part you're just gonna have to hang out for. But what is happening right now is there are groups of amazing, this group is so cool. Amazing people in breakout rooms answering the question, what does collaboration, or what has collaboration looked like for them thus far? I'm just double checking and making sure. Okay, so answering the question, in your experience, what can and what does radical collaboration look like? The idea is that collaboration, as we have been running it so far, has been created and cultivated in a scarcity mindset in the economies that we have, which are linear economies, and they're also extractive economies. So the relationships that we have not been built around the whole humans who are trying to have these relationships, and not just have them, but then also do things with them and together. So we need to look and address collaboration in general and evolve it to what we're calling radical collaboration, which is designed around the whole human and a regenerative kind of practice instead of an extractive, designed around a whole bunch of other things. That's just the long story, really short. So that's what has happened. We're now going to be recording, because when they come back from the breakout rooms, we're going to utilize the knowledge and the vast experience of the, I'm just going to keep complimenting them, of the really cool people that are joining us today, and hear what collaboration has looked like in their lives. We have people who come out of safety, out of operations, out of the university system, out of finance, out of game design, out of all of it. I cannot wait to hear what some of this stuff is. So I'm going to pause this recording until they come back. And yeah, thank you for, you know what, just thank you in advance to the person who, thank you in advance for watching this, first off, clicking the link, all of those things. And then 2, for your grace. And 3, I really, really, really look forward to seeing you at our next event, for sure. If that had been smooth, would have been Boston. Fumbling forward. All right, recording.
All right, well, welcome everyone back. I think everyone's back out of the rooms. Would anyone like to share some of their revelations that they had about your experiencing in radical collaboration, like defining it, good things, bad things?
I would.
Okay.
Yeah. We spoke about the word radical and how to like a millennial, it sounds like a trend, not like a trendy, but like a word that's used amongst millennials a lot. But yeah, the term radical, how like it changes it from just being collaboration to making it extreme. And I think the extreme part of it is humans working together and not competing with each other. I think that's pretty radical because, like Anna said, like it's something that's been ingrained in us more in the American culture. I think I come from Mexico, where people don't have a lot, or like the vision of acquiring a lot, or even the hope of acquiring a lot. And I see a lot more of a collaborative spirit in third world countries and in places where, you know, people are just happy supporting each other, because that's really the only way that, you know, they're gonna make it. If they're there, the neighbors, you know, lending eggs or an onion or something to the person living right next to you. So that is my opinion.
Great, beautiful, thank you. Anyone else came up with some group ideas or something that you hadn't thought about on the trials and tribulations of being radically collaborative?
T? to see that?
I had a resonant response to the conversation around radical. It's funny to hear it being used as a buzzword or as a millennial thing, because I'm age myself, I'm 44, right? I grew up in California when, if you would have met me early in my career, I would have sounded more like, oh my God, like this is like what like I wanted to do, because like I really want to be a motivational speaker, and like so this was like how I started, and everything is so radical, right? So this is where I learned the term radical, was living in California as, radical dude. First time I actually met it in the world was meeting the Radical Fairies in San Francisco. If you've never met the Radical Fairies, they are glitter-bearded, large-winged drag queens that cannot possibly be missed. And they wander the streets of San Francisco, handing out hash brownies and free condoms and dispensing advice to homeless gay youth and trans youth throughout the Bay Area. They are people who simply give them themselves as forces for good in the world. That's the first time I encountered what radical could mean in the world, where these massive bears, these bearded, hairy men are wearing colorful tights and wings, wandering around San Francisco. They're not asking for money. You can give them money, they'll take it, and they put it to use for their community or for themselves, but they're there to do good. And for me, that's what radical has always meant. It's meant I'm not going to work within the confines of the rules I'm told I have to be in. I'm going to step outside the norm and make a difference where I can, even if it upsets some people. And that's the radicalization. Sometimes it's going to be upsetting. We cannot have change without disruption. And for me, that's the core of radical collaboration, is that we're trying to figure out how to work together in a way that people have told us we can't. It doesn't work that way. Well, let's try it.
Brandy, you have your hand up. Oh, see, that was awesome, by the way. Also
amazing. I wrote that down on the Jamboard. I was
sorry, Brandy.
No, that's okay. So yeah, what you ended on, absolutely. And so I'm just a little bit under you in that sphere. And so for me, radical, I had an introduction of being very young into adulthood and taken under the wings of those that are now in their late boomer stages, that were the radical folks of the late 60s and early 70s, that were going up against the status quo, that were trying to do things in a different way than white American society was saying that we were supposed to be stepping to. And so for me, I've come into adulthood being like, yes, radical ideas are what I'm gravitating towards. So I love the fact that you guys named this radical collaboration, and I had spoke to that a bit in the breakout group of like how, to me, we are really talking about the principality, the values of why radical is being combined with collaborative, because collaborating in and of itself from a basic standpoint isn't enough right now. Or that we are to go beyond just the basic norms of collaboration within each other, whether it's independent contractor to community member, to our locality, our nation. There are radical places and that we can go much more beyond to be making these bigger leaps. So what I thought of, and I do ponder on this and have gone back and forth with over the years. So from my perspective of working with nonprofits and grassroots and events, is that a lot of times I find that there is the talking, but the walking the talk doesn't always come to be when we're talking conscious business or new ways of leadership that are more equal based. And so it's like, oh, well, you're going to lead that area and you have the autonomy to go do it that way. And so, but then you end up with 20 different people doing it their way, but at some point we have to intersect or weave, and so my profound, like what came for me is that there's also this place of still being willing to be a leader in what I'm doing and being honored and given that space, but also when I come up to the other people that I need to collaborate with, because we're co-creating this one experience, that I got to be open, willing to be led by somebody else, and that we can lead together, all of us at the same time. And that for me is radical collaboration that I've yet to see happen from this conscious business sustainable mindset.
So I think that is, no, I see that your hand is raised. I think that you just led us like perfectly into the next conversation of like, what inspires us to be radically collaborative? And I think that Brandy, you just led the way. Thank you for leading the way on that. No, I saw your hand was up. Do you want to like kind of weave your comment into like what inspires you to be radically collaborative?
In a collaborative way, I'm going to concede my time to talk, and let's move forward.
That was adorable. So does anyone have any ideas on like through this conversation of like the journey of collaboration, radical collaboration, what inspires you to be here to connect with others, to be led by others? Thank you, Brandy. That was just so beautiful. What inspires you to, show up as a servant leader and be led by others?
I can't actually speak to that, so I'm gonna retake back my time. Yeah. So to me, all the best work I have ever done has always been collaborative, and I am a very, very strong personality and can dominate a room at times. And when that happens, I end up with worse work. I end up with worse feelings about my work. I end up with worse, putting out worse things in the world, because the people who are around me are what makes me. They're the thing that makes my world better. My world is not full or alive or something that is living or breathing without the people who are around me. And so including them into the stories that I tell and the work that I do, it is the only thing that makes my work worth doing.
Beautiful. Hanoko, you've been quiet. What is your thoughts on?
I was chatting in the breakout room too much, so I stopped. Two things that I want to mention. One is, as Noah mentioned, assuming and accepting that I don't have all the answers as an individual, and then there's a goal that I need to achieve along with other people in the world, and only together I can achieve. That's the first acceptance that the group is bigger than me, the world is bigger than me, I can do better things. Number two, we talk about radical. See, other extreme of the radical would be incremental if you take a continuum. So incremental change in terms of changes and radical change. So which means trying to tinker with what is existing may work only for certain things, but not in everything. So when the problems are too big, too huge, we need a completely new perspective. So which requires a radical perspective, radical action, radical collaboration is part of the spectrum that probably is a solution to the things that we look for.
Beautiful. I think Anna liked that tremendously. I don't know if you saw her dance.
Yeah, I know, I did. Yes. The energy,
yeah. Anyone else want to jump in? The Jamboard is up. So if you are feeling a little shy, feel free to put your thoughts into the Jamboard.
All right, Chris the Dragon all day.
Yes.
I think that radical collaboration, if we're all here at the moment, we all have these causes that are close to our heart. And I think if you went around the room and asked everyone if they could do more in the world, would they and could they? Well, of course we would. Otherwise, we wouldn't be in the circles that we're in at the moment. And I think what we've all got to have is we've got to have ambition. And by ambition, something needs to get us to kick our legs out of bed every morning. And the fact that you're all here on a Saturday morning, and Hanoku is a classic example of kicking your legs out of bed in the morning to get up and be radical. I think that is what it's all about. You need ambition, you need the cause, and you need to kick your legs out of bed in the morning. That's it from me.
Love it. Beautiful. All right, Lauren, what are your thoughts on why your inspiration to be radically collaborative?
I wanted to follow up with what was just said. I appreciate that perspective. And I guess what comes to mind for me is I want to follow this thread that others have mentioned about that collaboration can help us do good. I feel like everyone in this room has the capacity to do good on their own. And so what feels extra special is taking that conversation a step further through collaboration. So instead of just like pairing up to do good and have a stronger impact, pairing up through this radical collaboration to like change the systems that we're a part of. So instead of just creating a positive impact within these spaces, we're actually recreating them through these collaborations. And that's what's inspirational to me.
Beautiful. So I think we might have time for this section for one more, and then we're going to hop into our superpower. So if someone else wants to let us know why you're inspired by radical collaboration or inspired to be here today. Izzy? Oh, I saw other people.
Other people want to go.
Izzy was first technically, so
Izzy was first.
I'll take it. So this just that inspires, like, especially listening to everybody else, I'm just reminded that a big part of what so deeply motivates me to what I genuinely believe to be radical collaboration is simply that I don't fit anywhere. And, you know, and when I was little, like, this was a horrible, horrible thing in my life. It was very painful. And the motivation was, I didn't want other people to feel the way that I felt. I think there's something about radical collaboration that makes room for the differences. And I love how Hanoku said it about, like, it's that different ideas and the welcoming of, like, oh, you see the world differently. The world is different for you. Like, let's let that in. And I think that's something that radical collaboration does that nobody can do by themselves.
That was, because, you know, at the core of humanity, we just want to belong, right? We want to belong to each other. We want to feel accepted. You know, all of us just want to feel connected to the group. And like, and is radical collaboration like actually that radical? It's just we've been conditioned to like think otherwise, but like we want to connect to each other. We want to belong to each other. So it's reconditioned. Like radical collaboration is actually like what humanity is, because we want to be connected to each other.
Reconditioned collaboration doesn't have as much of a ring to it.
Oh, beautiful. Anna Burrell, are you a consultant?
Sometimes.
Okay, I was just curious.
So let's see what Linda has to say, and then we'll go into a breakout room and talk about superpowers to talk about those next steps that Lauren was talking about.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. I was just sort of putting everything in the chat there. For me, radical collaboration is, you know, deconstructing this idea of what is to be an expert or a leader, rather than having that idea. It's a hierarchical idea, you know, expertise. You know, you have this knowledge, this power. Rather than that, to always look at relationships, the purpose of the relationship, why you're collaborating together, and then to realize that even if you would consider yourself a leader or quote expert or whatever, you're always going to learn from those that you're collaborating with, to keep that open, to always have that behind your entire relationship, that mutuality, you know, the respect and mutuality, opening your heart and your mind to that. That's for me what radical collaboration is.
Beautiful. Okay, so I put the Jamboard link again on in the chat. So we're going to be talking about our superpowers. What are your superpowers? You can think about it in terms of like, I'm good at math, or like think about it in terms of D&D. Right? Like, how are you impacting the world? What is your class feat? What is like, what can you do so well that you can share with the world? All right, so we're gonna go into, was that group size good for everyone? Yeah, okay, cool. So we already have the breakout rooms ready to go, and we're gonna open the rooms and we're gonna start joining.
No? Did you guys get left out? Oh, there you go. Oh, Mona. Oh, nice. Nice. All right, we're going to pause again. I told you, amazing people hang out with Twiggs Co. God. Y'all, I'm just in awe regularly of the incredible talent and the incredible hearts and the incredible spirits and the incredible knowledges and the incredible thoughts and feelings and just whole humans that get to interact with us. And I don't, like, every field has a bunch of amazing people in it, but the particular variety that just flows through sustainability. And like, even saying that, you just heard Izzy talk about, not feeling like she belongs, and growing up not feeling like she belongs anywhere, and how painful that was. That was my experience, not having a home and looking to find that. And that's at the core of collaboration and radical collaboration, is how do we intentionally address ego in relationships? And what you generally find when you dig through when ego becomes an issue in a relationship is you find a trauma, you find a feeling of inadequacy, a feeling of a lack of love, you find some sort of gap that is a non-functional gap, and it's a not helpful gap. And when you get to that gap and you're able to fill that gap with healing, with healthy tissue, with community, with things that bolster and heal and hold up and do good and are regenerative by their very nature, that's when you have foundations for exponential impact. But you have to get relationships, and you have to get to a place where you can intentionally address ego in what's going on. Okay, I'm gonna pause this. Got to do some math and figure out when I need to call them back. And then we'll be back to talk about superpowers and play around with how they fit in together. So thank you for joining in this journey, of course. I'll talk to you soon.
Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Hola, ¿cómo estás, Luisa?
All right, I think everyone is back. Looks like the numbers make sense. So what did you guys learn about other people, about your own superpowers? Anyone want to share? Brandon.
So we're in our 4-person group. It really seemed like radical collaboration just makes a ton of sense, because we talked about both our superpowers and a superpower we would like to kind of work on. And just the 4 of us were like, oh yes, your power is great. That's what I want to do. Well, oh, you can help me either directly by using that power or teaching me about it. And it just really drives home the point that radical collaboration is just so helpful. There's almost like a downside is just not apparent to me at the moment. And just getting to know different people with different skills and different perspectives just makes sense with just about everything you want to do in life.
Beautiful. Anyone else would like to share maybe an insight or a superpower that you learned about yourself or someone else, or how like superpowers fit together? That was wonderful, Brandon.
Hi,
Thinking, processing.
I wanted to say, I was in a group with 3 men, so I was the only woman. And I realized that we are radically different.
What was that experience like for you, Linda? Like, and how did you come together and to create something?
Well, for me, that's why it was so wonderful, because I could hear the voices of men. And I worked for a long, long time with mostly women at the United States Department of Health in the public health field. And, you know, to hear the voices of men, I think that to have that kind of radical collaboration is to be in diverse groups, to really understand other people's perspectives, to listen, and also to trust and hope that those that have more power in our society, it's men, will open up their hearts to me as a woman and sort of a shy kind of person, so that I have the same amount of collaboration time, you know, and learning time with other people.
So T, I see that you raised your hand. I think that this is actually a really great like segue, Linda. Anna, would you like to help facilitate the groups of how like we can maybe combine our superpowers? You know, with our powers combined, we are Captain Planet. No? Okay, good.
The original
Anna,
copyright still stands. For Captain Planet, we don't own it.
Would you like to help facilitate the group? T, I see that your hand was raised, and so maybe we can like kind of combine that superpower with someone else's superpower.
Sure, I can make this a good segue as well. I just want to address that, Linda, you were actually in a group with 2 men and 1 non-binary person. Because while I was born and socialized as male, it's never been a label that's fit me. And part of my journey has been stepping out of the constructs and the rules, the confinements that have told me I'm supposed to be a man and what that means. And while I don't identify as female, I don't have the lived experience of a woman or being socialized as such, I have always been one of the people who inhabits the spaces in between. I never really fit in with the men or the women or the gays or the straights, right? I'm kind of in between on all the axes, from gender to sex to socialized gender. And that is its own superpower. And it's the place where we get to come together. It's the place where people who have lived and experienced socialized as men and still inhabit that have a voice that can help make change for people that still identify as men. Like I heard David talking about how, you know, he's not always trying to be a radical or revolutionary in his work, but people come to him because he's someone who is listened to by other people in the organization. That some of it has to do with being socialized as a male. Some of it has to do with maybe being seen as, you know, not quite as of color. Me, I'm a person of color who got to pass for white a lot of times. So that's a superpower, right? It's a secret agent superpower when, oh, you don't know that I'm gay, do you? So you're going to talk to me like I'm straight. Great. Okay, now that you've let all that out, let me tell you who you've been talking to, right? And we get to twist things from the inside, and that's one of the ways that we can bring these superpowers together.
Man, oh, yeah. Gorgeously said. Izzy brought up, you know, being a weirdo and being not feeling at home ever. And I can just from personal experience, that is a significant part of my lived experience and not fitting in anywhere, being that central of axes. So welcome to anybody who would like it. We are happy to be your adopted family. We are happy to be your authentic friends. And we would be absolutely honored to be your collaborators in any way that you will have us. Quite personally, I feel comfortable saying that in this group of people. making deep eye contact with each one of these squares. Cool. So it was really cool to hear feedback from Brandon that the relationships just made sense to collaborate, which is super cool. That's what we've been seeing as well. Is there anywhere where it didn't make sense? See, if that doesn't make the argument for radical collaboration, I don't know what does. I'm done. Mic drop, out, bye. Go ahead, Brandy.
Well, I did literally just shake my head in response as no. I would say the place that it would not is if someone is not feeling safe, and not to necessarily go down the rabbit hole, but after I said no, maybe as being a woman or as just, it actually doesn't have to do with a woman being a woman, but just if the space is not safe coming into collaborating with others, then I would say that would be one of those places where you would have to bow out. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I think that one of the things that's going to be that would be required, or is more of a requirement, is that you are working with somebody who has gone through, for lack of a better term, I think we've been using the term conditioning, the reconditioning of this collaborative mindset. Because if you're trying to collaborate with somebody who is still stuck in that competitive, aggressive, dominating mindset, then the collaboration itself can just degrade, and it can become something that is harmful to you, your personality, your self-respect, yourself, the way you see yourself. So yeah.
To add to that, I kind of was getting at this a little bit in our breakout group, this idea of, yeah, like there has to, right, it's tough in a hierarchy. I think what it comes down to is, like, in our current system, I think it always makes sense, but that it's great to be in a group like this, but we're not always going to be in the safety of this group with each other. And sometimes we'll have to go back to our traditional work environments, which are hierarchical systems, and in which, yeah, there are going to be dominating presences working with us. And there are other factors. There's social, class, economic status, racial and ethnic groups all at play. But one thing that I'm thinking of as a superpower, and recognizing, like, just to push that theme forward as well, is just being, I think, like, boldly vulnerable. I started in the first breakout session saying that I would love to see us come from a place where the social default is trust. And I don't know if anyone knows Gary Vee. I follow Gary Vee on Instagram. He's like just kind of a weirdo. I feel like he would love a group like this. He can be aggressive sometimes, but he has such a good heart. And Gary Vee talks about this, that it's hard to understand sometimes why the social default is a place of, you have to earn my trust. So I have distrust. You have to dispel the distrust before we can make progress. I would love to see trust be the standard. And sometimes I think that even if you have someone who has this traditional, mindset of domination and dominance, that being boldly vulnerable, in time they're eventually going to realize what's happening, or so I would like to think, and so I would just encourage everyone to not be discouraged by those kinds of personalities, and to continue to just be you and do what you believe in, without the fear of, like, what potential reprisal might look like in these situations.
Well said. Well said.
Sorry.
I lost the box. Noah? Okay.
Yeah. And so one thing I was just going to say is that one thing that I've encountered is I think that there are, the people who are in the hierarchy above me right now, they have the privilege to figure this stuff out for themselves, right? They should be able to take the time and figure this stuff out for themselves. But one thing that I've encountered that has been shocking to me at times when reaching out to folks who are perhaps less privileged than me, is that there are folks out there who have been so conditioned to believe that they are lower in the hierarchy that they can't get out of that mindset. And I think that a lot of our work that needs to be done is not necessarily pulling those people down who are higher in the hierarchy, but helping to lift the people up who are lower in that traditional hierarchy, so that they can have the opportunity to see a world that's like this, because there's so much more of them than there are of those people who are higher up in that privilege hierarchy, or whatever you want to call it. And so I'd be really curious to see how we as a group can create ideas or create places where people who are kind of, so used to just being burnt out by their job at a retail store or whatever, how can we bring them into this world where they don't have to look at this type of conversation with a cynical mindset of like, I could never do that. I could never be there because I don't have the privilege to be in that space. And how do we give them that the opportunity to be, to feel like, yeah, this is the future. This is the world that I can be in, because these people value me and I can be valued in this space.
Absolutely. Well said. We only have a couple of minutes left. We will leave the room open for a little while for anybody who wants to stay after. Noah, that's perfect. Absolutely perfect. I was on one of the next part of this is how to get involved and how to stay in touch with Twiggs Co, blah, blah, blah. So this is like perfect. We're actually addressing that specifically. So we sit in groups and on some really great committees and boards and coalitions. And the question is what does what we are moving towards look like? We're talking about stakeholder engagement, and one of the stakeholders is like, I have no idea what an equitable community looks like. How do I walk down the street and know that I'm walking through an equitable community? I'm like, shit, that's a good question. So to start addressing this, Twiggs Co over Christmas started a campaign called Do You See What I See? This is it's an ongoing campaign, because we as visionaries, we with people who have ideas of how we can make the world a better place, need to start talking about those ideas in ways that are really easy and accessible. So one of my dreams, one of my visions for the world is that I can walk down the street and have a snack wherever I go. I can pick something off a tree, I can pick a vegetable, a fruit, a leaf, and eat it, and it's fine. That is how you would be able to walk down the street and tell that my work is successful, is one of the ways. It's very tangible, very straightforward. Communicating this in an Instagram post, in a TikTok video, in less than 3 minutes is vital, and something that people in our positions don't often do, and that we very much need to do to start building the future. So that way we can then start talking about this radically collaborative relationship, which we've been talking about in an ethereal way, but what I see this growing into after enough information input is an actual document. I am a radical collaborator. I am registered. I have training in non-confrontational communication tactics. I have training in how to intentionally address my ego. When I get butthurt about something in a relationship, I can put on my big girl pants and go talk about it. It might not be pants because I might not feel them that day, but whatever. We'll go talk about it in an appropriate, comfortable setting. But the radical collaboration is actually putting things, paper, spoken word into an actual relationship. If I am a radical collaborator, I am values driven, I align with these, and I've had this training. And I know, like, if I'm a dick, I at least know how to say I'm sorry. So with that, thank you everyone for being here. Vicky, if you could copy and paste our links to the socials in the chat, that would be awesome. We are working on being all over social media. The point is to talk to people in the language that they're speaking about the principles that we know can shift the world to do better. So that's what we're here for. Please follow us on social. Engage with us. We've got a TikTok that's coming up, LinkedIn all day. Our website's coming out. We have a podcast called They Give Us Hope. We've got a YouTube channel that's really quite active, which is super cool. We host multiple volunteering events every month. We are working a lot in the food access space. So we have Growing Home, we have We Don't Waste, and we have Metro Caring that we work with regularly, and we love them dearly. They are super cool organizations. Please come hang out with us and meet cool people. Oh, actually, Brandon hangs out at Metro Caring. David hangs out at Growing Home, and like all these people are so awesome. Okay, so come hang out with us. And then for this series, this is the Next Steps to Sustainability series. We are meeting on the 17th of every month. Times will shift depending on what day the 17th falls in on. I don't know. We're experimenting with this to see what happens. Let us know. And then, yeah, always, 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 please feel free to reach out to Vicki and I anytime you get the thought or the earworm or the gut feeling or something comes up and you're just like, oh man, Anna and or Vicki. Doesn't matter, just reach out. We love you. And I can say that because we actually know you guys. It's super cool. and are getting to know and building the relationship, stuff like that, you know, consent, all that stuff.
We're gonna keep the Zoom room open. If you need to, you know, jump out and go enjoy your Saturday, thank you so much for coming. We really, really appreciate your love and support in building this coalition. And if you want to hang out and continue to chat, we'll be here to continue to chat with you.
Thank you so much. Do you mind adding, I'm so sorry, I forgot to add my email to the list and my Instagram. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
This was awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Amy, I couldn't
Thanks
edit
as
the
always.
document, but please could you add mine as well?
Who was saying that? I'm sorry.
Laura.
Sorry. Okay, yeah. If you want to pop if you did not get a chance to get into your name and information on the participant list, if you want to just pop it in to the chat, and then I will go through and make sure that I have everyone on the list that wants to be public.
Thank you, Anna and Vicki, and everybody. It was really fantastic. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Kenzie.
Enjoy the balance of your weekends.
Yes.
Same to you.
Thank you, Anna and Vicki, and others too. Nice meeting you.
Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, pleasure. And we'll follow up with what I mentioned to Vicki on putting things together later on.
That would be amazing to create that sort of like link of superpowers and create a model to that. That would be incredible.
We'll keep in touch. Thanks. Have a good day.
Thank you. You too.
Vicki, do you have the emails that are popping through in the chat?
Yep, I'm working on it. I'll just save I'm going to save the chat.